Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Tom in the cart here. Absolutely, what can I say about that movie? I am going to go and watch it twice, so that's very lucky. I'm actually able to jump in the car after watching it on opening night, by the way, which I just want to say is a big one for this film because spoilers are out there and I don't want anything being ruined. So I'm going to definitely not do spoilers straight away. I'll give you a verbal warning and a little countdown before we discuss the spoilers. But I wanted to do a car vlog. Boom! I wanted to do a car vlog straight out the gates just to discuss what we'd seen. But yeah, basically, without any spoilers, Marvel's back, baby. Marvel's back. You know, we've had like the rare one-off wonders of like Deadpool and Wolverine and Spider-Man. After Avengers Endgame closed a big chapter, especially my chapter of Marvel history growing up. Endgame was the finale to that for me and for my childhood of Marvel. And then in more recent years, obviously after Avengers, it was Spider-Man Far From Home, and then after Far From Home, you had Spider-Man Far From Home, then you had Deadpool and Wolverine. But those were like not very canonical. They were more like just they exist in the universe. Spider-Man's obviously going to tie a certain bit in at some point. Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be rediscussed of obviously what happens next for Spider-Man and for people like that. But as far as Avengers go, we've heard nothing of them since basically the collapse of Avengers Endgame. And it's been a long time since Endgame. When you actually go back and look at how long ago Endgame was in cinemas, it's been a long-ass time since we've had Avengers content. So to get the Thunderbolts movie, you might be thinking, well, Tom, why are you talking about Avengers? Let me explain. Let me explain without spoilers. Without spoilers, I want to say the film was phenomenal. It was brilliant. It discusses mental health, so trigger warning if you're someone who's a bit worried about talking about your mental health to people, but a bit of a trigger warning's included for that. There's a little bit of, obviously, subplots are about mental health and a lot of the main themes to do with mental health. And it's nice to see Marvel tackling a real-world scenario like mental health because obviously there are so many young men and women in the world who don't want to discuss the mental health problems, and a lot of people out there who think they need to suffer in silence. And it'd be nice for a generation of kids who grow up with superheroes that they idolise, who get to know that they're superheroes that they look up to, talk about mental health. That's such a big deal. To me, that's such a big deal. To have superhero characters talk about mental health, because it's going to encourage a whole generation of young kids to talk about their mental health, and ultimately that will be a good kickstart for a lot of young people's conversations. So that I'm a big advocate for. I'm really excited about the Thunderbolts movie covering mental health and helping young people out there who want to talk about their own mental health, which I think is brilliant. And obviously superheroes talking about it makes it a little bit more acceptable in younger people's heads to talk about it themselves, and I think that's a nice connection point. That's probably the most mature answer I'm going to give you about the rest of it. The majority of the time I was like a kid in a sweet shop. I was enjoying every moment. It was great, from the action, the music, the decisions that were made with the plot and how the characters evolved, and it was really cool because all of these characters we know little bits about, and maybe apart from Bucky, who obviously we know the most about, but apart from Bucky and we look at the normal, everyone else, the majority of them, we really just know about them, and that's it. And like, we've seen them pop up. Like, there was a character from Ant-Man and the Wasp, which obviously has not been out for years. We have John Walker, who was obviously appointed the new Captain America before Sam Wilson became Captain America. So we heard about him in the TV show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier series on Disney+. We've heard of different characters and we've seen different bits and pieces, but we've not seen them all together share a big screen. And like Black Widow, we saw Yelena and we saw Yelena's dad, the Red Guardian, together in the same movie, and that was phenomenal. To see them all together was really cool. And I was excited for that. That was really cool to see as part of sort of a cinematic medley of people who all get together and make these cool moments happen. I was really excited to see what they did with the Black Widow character and the Black Widow story moving forwards. I think that was really cool. And Florence Pugh, who I just love as an actress anyway, she's just a phenomenal actress. Florence Pugh absolutely crushes it in the world of acting, especially as part of the Avengers. She crushes it. She's a phenomenal actress, Florence Pugh. And I think, obviously, coming in as like sort of their leader, it's not quite true of the Thunderbolts what the leader is or who the leader could be, but definitely Florence Pugh makes a good case for it. You know, Sebastian Stan as Bucky has had his time. He's famous now. Everybody kind of associates him with the Avengers, and they know him as part of that crew. So it'd be nice for him to kind of be there as the mentor and the leader of like sort of knowledge, but as the actual active leader, Florence Pugh definitely can step into that role. And again, we've talked about a little bit in media at the moment about gendered characters and the roles and the beliefs of different characters in the world. I just want to say to anyone out there, as a straight fella who, you know, grows up with or definitely grew up with a lot of male stereotype main characters to be interested in and to idolize and look up to. I grew up with like the Terminator and Rambo and Iron Man and all these like male role models in fiction that I could look up to. But if you want to show a young audience, especially a young audience of men, some really strong female leads, and do it in a great passionate way, do it in a really smart way, don't do it in this cheap sort of wokeism that people moan about. If you want to see great examples of really strong female characters, the pair is Ghost and Yelena, who's Florence Pugh. I can't remember the lady's name who acts as the Ghost character, but those two are phenomenal characters, really phenomenal. Like Yelena, I'd love to hear, obviously there's young women out there who are going to look up to that character and relate to that character and idolize that character, and that's going to be, you know, the next generation's version of Iron Man for some young fans growing up, which is lovely. But I like the fact that Yelena's a character who is played by, obviously, Florence Pugh, who's played by a great actress, and as a lad, as a young man, you can still, or as a teenage lad, you can still grow up and idolize that character. There's nothing reserved about her, there's nothing taken away from her, like, oh, I can't like that character, or I can't look up to that character because I'm a fella and this character's a woman. Like, she's a strong lead lady and she does it well and she's done it properly and the writing's impeccable, the acting's impeccable. It just goes to show you, when people have like these arguments and these social sort of incel wars and all this weird online debates with each other about bullshit, it's really nice to sit there and see that there are actually great actresses out there and great writing teams out there, and when you get that recipe right, you can create characters that break down gender. Gender is nothing when it comes to acting if the writing and the actor do the job right. Like, if the two together, like everybody in this film crushes it in their role, apart from one which we'll talk about in the spoilers, but everybody does a great job. I couldn't fault the film. Obviously, it's opening night, so there's a little bit of hype. Obviously, it's the first good Marvel movie I've seen in the cinema for a long time, since Deadpool and Wolverine last year. So, obviously, I'm a little bit excited. I'm a little bit hyped up. I am going to go back and watch it a second time round as well. So, hopefully, there will be an opportunity for me to go in to the second one, not looking for problems, but with a little bit more of a thinking hat on, rather than, you know, obviously I'm fanboying right now because I'm just a bit excited, and it's really, really cool to have a Marvel movie in the cinema right now that you can go and watch with your mates and enjoy it. And I think as well, just before we go into spoilers, I think they've made it great, because if you were a fan of the Marvel timeline growing up, like from my generation, we got Avengers 1, and then it kind of snowballed from there. Obviously, you had like Iron Man and Thor and things like that, like little solo movies. But if you really just started with the Avengers back in like 2012, you will go into this and you will love what they've done with that project moving forward in this new phase of Marvel. But also, if you're a brand new fan, if you're someone who's never watched a Marvel movie, this could be a great Marvel movie. Like, the world feels heavy. It feels like there's been pre-established heroes before. It feels like you're stepping into a well-built world, and you don't need to know all the lore and history. Obviously, I was there for it. It was part of my childhood. But you wouldn't need to necessarily have been there. You could just kind of grow up and start your Marvel fandom off with the Thunderbolts movie. And I think it would kickstart you into the Marvel universe in a really good way. I think you'd be in a good stead for a Marvel fan to start with the Thunderbolts movie. And that's what I want to say. So, spoiler-free review in this first bit. Absolutely loved the film. Couldn't rate it any higher. Really recommend you go and watch it on the best screen you can. I'm not seeing it in IMAX yet, unfortunately. I'm watching it in 2 standard screens, but god damn it, I want to go and watch it in IMAX. So I might try and get a way to go and do that, because god damn, I want to support this movie. And it gets me so hyped for what comes next. But no spoilers, loved it, great film, highly recommend it. I'm a long-time Marvel fan, and I didn't have any massive issues with it, so I really recommend you go out there and watch it, and let me know in the comments if you're a long-time Marvel fan, what's your opinion on it. If you're a first-time Marvel fan, what's your opinion on it. Share in the comments down below your thoughts and feelings, because I want to get your guys' feedback on this, because I loved it. It was really good. I couldn't fault it. Really liked it. So yeah. Now we're going to enter spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Oh my god, Taskmaster. So everybody was a bit mixed on the Black Widow movie. The villain of that movie, or like sort of anti-villain, I don't know, like the anti-hero of that movie, was a character called the Taskmaster. This was a lady who was an assassin who was trained. A lot of people didn't like how they gender swapped that character, but this sounds like a Black Widow movie review at this point. But basically, that character is advertised a lot in the posters, not a lot in the trailers, which now makes sense, because within about 10 minutes of the movie, she's dead. She basically is the best assassin in the world. Also, the comics make her out to be. And one of the team members, I'm not going to spoil who, but one of the team members ends up shooting her in the face and killing her. Like, you could argue the fact that she'd lowered her guard, you could argue the fact that she was distracted, but that was probably the only problem I had with the film. But obviously I couldn't discuss that in the spoiler bit, in the non-spoiler bit, because obviously it's kind of difficult to complain about a massive spoiler like that. But that was probably the only bit of the movie that really was a bit weird for me to get my head around. Because, like, Taskmaster in the comics and now in the movies is meant to be this badass assassin who's, like, copied all the fighting stances and abilities of all the different heroes. There's a bit of Black Panther fighting in there. There's a bit of Captain America style fighting in there. There's the guns and stuff. There's the Black Widow fighting. There's, like, a little bit of a sword going on there. So, like, a bit Deadpool-esque. But Taskmaster is basically meant to be this, like, copycat fighter who can imitate other heroes and fight like them and copy them. But she's meant to be like the most badass assassin on the planet. She just gets shot in the face. Maybe it was for shock factor. Maybe it was just so they could get rid of a character really quickly, which they did. Bit sad if you're a Taskmaster fan, but unfortunately the Marvel version of that version of Taskmaster, obviously there's variants now, so we can see different versions of a different Taskmaster at some point in the future. But that version of Taskmaster from the Black Widow movie is dead. So I guess even if you hated the Black Widow movie because of Taskmaster, you don't have to worry about that character anymore, because that version of her is dead, sadly. R.I.P. to that lady. She literally took her helmet off as well, because mostly the time she wears a helmet. She took her helmet off. You saw her face for like 5 seconds. Probably CGI'd it on for like the 5 seconds she's there, but she literally takes the helmet off. You see her face for like 2 split seconds, and she puts the helmet back on, has this mini fight scene, and then dies straight away. And it was kind of mad. I just didn't expect that coming. But a weird inclusion. Like, I would have preferred her not to have been in the film at all, because my brain was never really like, oh, where's Taskmaster? Why haven't we seen that character for a while? Like, I don't know. It was a bit weird. She's in the poster, but basically don't buy the t-shirt. If you see her on it, don't buy the t-shirt, because don't go cosplaying. If you're the friend group like cosplaying the Thunderbolts premiere, I feel bad if you put all your time and effort in being Taskmaster, because, like I say, she gets shot in the face pretty quickly. But that was the only problem I had, as far as that's concerned. And obviously, it's to do with spoilers, so I had to wait for the spoiler bit to talk about that. But outside of that, I'm just gassed. I'm just really excited. They talked about Bob. They showed Bob, who's a brand new character, as far as I'm concerned. I think he exists in the comics somewhere as well, but he's also known as the Sentinel. He's a guy who gets tested on to be like a civilian turned superhero. Not like a super soldier serum. This is a bit more extreme, but a bit like Weapon X, a bit like with how Wolverine was experimented on, but he was like a mutant who was experimented on. This is meant to be just like a civilian who was experimented on. But the weird thing with Bob is like his childhood and his upbringing is very dark and depressive, and there's a lot of problems with Bob. So the serum kind of reacts weirdly in his body, and he becomes this like really evil character, but he plays this like duality really well, and I don't want to spoil that, even though it was spoilers. I don't want to spoil that. I like how the actor does it, and I really want you to watch that on the screen for yourself. Spoiler or not, I think you need to benefit by watching that yourself. It covers dark stuff, so about mental health, which is nice. Obviously not nice, but superhero movies don't often do that, so it's nice for them to cover that real world topic really well. And the Thunderbolts asterisks, basically Thunderbolts were called the Thunderbolts with a little asterisk next to the name on the poster and on the promotional material. But basically, the Thunderbolts with the asterisk, an asterisk means like this is a mistake. We need to change this later, like it's a spelling mistake. And it's because at the end of the movie, it gets announced that this cast of the Thunderbolts are actually the new Avengers, and that's a big thing. If you watch the comics, the new Avengers is massive. It's massive. So go look that up and start reading some new Avengers comics. But basically, they're the new Avengers. Literally, that's their name, the new Avengers. And then in the post-credit scene, which again, I recommend you go and watching for yourselves in person, but in the post-credit scene, they get announced to being the new Avengers. And then there's a cut to like 14 months after the film takes place, and then we see them in like the new Avengers Tower, and we hear that Sam, who's obviously now the new Captain America, is having a bit of a domestic against Bucky because Sam's trying to form his own form of... Sam is trying to come up with his own Avengers team, and Bucky's in charge of these new Avengers, and there's kind of like a headbutt Civil War mini situation happening again. Then they talk about like there's a war going on in space, and there's a problem off-world, and then there's all this weird stuff, and then they get an alert from like this AI voice that tells them that there's something in the atmosphere, near Earth. They look it up on a big screen to see if it's a threat, and it turns out to be a spaceship, and it says it's an interdimensional spaceship, and when it flips around to the camera, you see the Fantastic Four logo. And obviously, I mean, that's kind of a spoiler, but it isn't, because obviously we've seen the trailers. We know the Fantastic Four film's coming. We don't know to what scale the Fantastic Four is going to be. I'm really sad I didn't watch the Thunderbolts on the IMAX screen, and I'm really sad that I currently don't have any plans to go and watch the Thunderbolts on an IMAX screen. But one thing is for certain, because of that post-credit scene, I am definitely going to make sure I go and watch the Thunderbolts the Fantastic Four in an IMAX, because I know something big's going to happen, and I'm very excited. So that is your spoiler. The Fantastic Four's next. I'm very excited. Thunderbolts, I loved you. I'm going to give you a 9 out of 10, just because of the way Taskmaster did it. I wish that was explained a little bit more. But apart from that, amazing. Great movie. Go watch it in the cinema. Go watch it on a nice big screen. If you can get a chance to go and watch it in a big juicy IMAX, go and do that. 9 out of 10. Smashed it. Absolutely great Marvel film. Marvel's on its way back. I'm not going to be like, Marvel's back, baby, like I did at the start of the video. That was just a tag to get you guys in. But Marvel is getting on its way back. Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus was amazing. Wolverine and Deadpool was amazing, or Deadpool and Wolverine was amazing. Spider-Man No Way Home was amazing. And I'm so excited for what's going to come next. The Fantastic Four, obviously. But yeah, Thunderbolts, New Avengers, whatever you want to call them. Smashed it. Absolutely awesome. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Thanks for watching this review. Sorry it was in my car, but it was the only time I could do it. So subscribe. See me for more movie stuff, I guess. If this video does well, we'll talk about films more, because I like talking about films. So yeah, subscribe. Love you guys. See you in a bit. Peace.